One time for maybe 5 minutes.
We ready to go? Any announcements that need to be made today? Public comments. When I looked at the board out there, there were 2 people. What I'd suggest is that when we reach the agenda item that you're concerned about, we will give you a chance to discuss that. If there's anything that's not on the agenda that you would like to have a public comment about, this is the time to do that. Otherwise, we will discuss your issues when we discuss the agenda item. Anything else? So let's move on to approval of minutes from last month. But any questions or comments about that? Have a motion to
approve.
Second.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, it carries. New items for consideration. I've got one item which is not on the agenda, which Penny pointed out that Nate has not been officially nominated or appointed to the Sustainability Integration Board. Do we need a vote, or we just need to say that we are?
I think a vote's probably best. Yeah, that's the easiest way to appoint somebody.
I was on it last year. Phil was on before me. I asked to be off. So I would nominate Nate to be our representative on the Wichita Sustainability Integration.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Does it matter?
For the record, come on.
Thank you, Nate.
You gotta negotiate about
So our first item for consideration is Rockwell Edgemore MOU. Thank you, Katie.
Yes, this should be a pretty straightforward presentation. So the Wichita Public Library is remodeling their Rockwell branch right now. That's located right next to Edgemore Park. And they have come to us and requested that they use a small portion of Edgemore Park for their parking lot. They need to expand it, to make it safer, and to accommodate their expected usage for that branch. So you can kind of see right here is where their parking lot is. This drawing shows anything beneath this dark black line is the portion in question that they would need to use. So it's not very big. They would only take up just this little bit here that doesn't really have anything in it. So the terms are they'll continue to manage that project in coordination with Public Works. Any trees that would be removed, I don't think we'll have to, but if we do remove any, then in accordance with our tree canopy plan, those will be replaced elsewhere within the park or as close to it as possible. They will maintain the portion that's being used as a parking lot, and that will remain park property. We're just granting them an easement to use that. And our recommendation is to approve the MOU with the library, and I do have a copy of the MOU in front of you for reference if you need to refer to it. Okay, for any questions?
On slide 1, it looks like there's quite a bit of green space around the park, around the library itself. There too, I'm assuming the east. Is there a reason why the library isn't just rolling around on their corner of the property?
I am not privy to that information. Tim, do you have any info?
They're expanding the footprint, so that will be building. So that's why they're not going over there. Yeah.
They would not restrict it for park participants to park in that lot. There's no fees or anything.
Correct. Yeah, so people can, it's just, yeah, it's still gonna be public, property, public, part of, the city's footprint, like, that's owned by the city as well. So, yeah, people can use that as well as the Edgemore Rec Center parking lot over here, either one.
Any other questions or comments? So she asked for approval for that. Do I hear a motion? This is in, what district is this in?
I think it's in District 1.
Which is a Alejo. That's a Alejo.
Leos. Well, okay, then I'll make a motion.
Somebody standing in for him.
Yeah. It's a request. MOU. Second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Same sign. Looks like it's approved. Thank you. You up for the second?
I don't think I got yours open yet, Katie.
Okay. I thought I saw the K-96 one. Okay. So for the K-96 expansion project, KDOT came to us, with a study that they did, surrounding the area directly adjacent to where their improvement project is planned to be, between 135 and Turnpike, and I've highlighted here on the map. So, the Department of Transportation Act has a section that specifically defines what is considered a de minimis impact during the projects. And they did go through a lot of time and study on this to mitigate any potential impacts to our parks. And they did change over time while they were studying this. They thought it was gonna be a larger footprint, and they did manage to get it down to as small a footprint as possible. So they're just, speaking our concurrence that it is in fact de minimis, very minimal impact. Right now, we're waiting, for city council approval, because KDOT has not provided an update to this schedule for the project right now. So we're actually going to be holding on any decision making on this, but just for your information, this is what the current impacts are looking like if, as currently presented. So this is K-96 Lake Park. It's only affecting less than an acre out of 46 total. These little hash marks here are the only bits that would be affected. And those are, there's no amenities or anything on those pieces. The lake itself will be untouched. Chisholm Creek Park, north and south, as well as these trails. It's affecting a little bit on the corner of Chisholm Creek South, Chisholm Creek North, this corner. There is a gravel parking lot there, but they would be reconstructing that, and probably improving it as well when they re-add that back in. The bike trail would be temporarily closed right through here, just a little portion. It would be temporary and only during the time needed specifically for that portion, and they would be rebuilding any trail that has to be taken out due to their grading work. And then the path inside of the Great Plains Nature Center, they found that they would actually not need to impact that at all. And then out east, it's FAA property, portion here of the K-96 bike trail, again, would be temporarily closed and then rebuilt once the work is done. And then the Redbud Trail was determined not to be affected. So right now, we don't actually need any action as KDOT has not provided us an update to the schedule. We're just recommending that city council continue indefinitely until we get that update from KDOT. And we'll stand for any questions.
Just want to say we wanted to put it on the agenda today because there are some questions about what the potential impact was on it. I want to give you guys the information that we had now. And again, it's been placed on hold till we get more information from KDOT on what the next steps are. But we wanted to make sure what was presented initially. And then once we have more information and direction, we'll give an update for you guys to actually do a vote on how we move forward.
The bike trail is more than just a bike trail. It's walking also, and so that's going to be closed. And since we don't have a schedule, we don't know how long it's going to be closed. Is that what I'm getting to?
But they did determine that any of the trails that would be closed, if when we get that update, if they'll still be impacted, then they did say that it would be for as small a time as possible, basically just for that section. They wouldn't be closing it for the duration of the entire K-96 project, just for that portion.
No ability to reroute.
They would reroute it after, but they did determine that due to the nature of the exits that they need, that it would need to be impacted. Just
So anybody that's using the trail, they're stopped. They can't move on.
that's my understanding.
There's already a problem at Chisholm Creek South with bikes and dogs and joggers coming through the main part, which is part of the Wichita Wildlife Park. And no matter how many signs, restrictions, yelling, whatever, there's bicycles and dogs on that part. And this would just increase the use of, because they would bypass, just like you say, they'll find a way around that. So that would be one of our concerns as well. Okay. But, you know, this was presented, what, 2 years ago to us at a very early draft stage.
23, I think it was.
And we had a bunch of questions then, which I don't know for sure have been answered, but they've certainly moved along. There was a public meeting 6 months ago about this. I've talked to people who use the park a lot for birding, for recreation, and the amount that is taken or is being expected is not, or it's not in a critical part of the park.
And that was part of the process when we were looking at it initially, is that we had Amanda, who's a Great Plains Nature Center director there, and some of the other users of the park to actually walk to look at those spaces that potentially can be impacted, to let us know some things that they may have some concerns with from the users. So we took that in consideration as well, and that'll be something that we'll look at once we move forward with the project to make sure we address those concerns too.
With something like this, is KDOT buying it from the city? Is it just being taken? Is there a replacement? Happens to money if there's money exchanged?
And John may be able to give some more information on that. He's with property manager, to be able to give a little more details on what the process normally looks like once we do move forward with something.
John Philbrick, City Real Estate Department. The minimum finding that we're discussing here is basically our understanding is that it impacts the amount of reporting and research that KDOT has to do to move forward. It does not impact the compensation to the city. They have done appraisals on both Chisholm Creek North and Chisholm Creek South, which we have enhanced. And it is our understanding that in addition to the compensation or the remediation that's being discussed, you know, putting the paths back, fixing the parking lot and so on, we will also receive compensation based on those appraisals. Off the top of my head, I think the numbers were like $300,000 or $400,000 for the land being impacted.
That goes to the city budget, it goes to Parks Department budget.
That would be determined. I did not, have that information. That'd be, I would assume it go back to parks because we're taking parks. That is normally the process. But that would be a council decision in the hands of the park board.
It can be part of our recommendation. I hear from constituents, District 6, we can't sell any park property, even, an acre or two. They'll make a distinction between a park and an acre of a park.
Well, and that's the purpose of this compensation. Like I said, there was an appraisal, they valued the land and the exact details of that will still need to be negotiated. This de minimis finding is just that they do not have to continue to do significant cultural studies and so on.
And when we get further along as well in the process and those questions you have specifically, what the process looks like, we can make sure we get those answered as well. So when we're making a decision, we'll know that we have all of that information to make an informed decision.
Other questions?
While this project is going on, is there any ability to take advantage of putting in better crosswalks for the bike path, sidewalks? I know just having a shop on this side of town, that's a pretty heavily used area. We done talked about whether it's the Red Boat connected to K96 with our crosswalks and crossing busy roads. Is this the right? Just make one big improvement so when the trail's reopened, it's.
That's one of the
That could be part of our recommendation. This is to council, is that the money they're going to receive from the property sale and go back into it for those things. So I think we can make it very specific about sent to do. Your thought.
I would agree. The other thing what I saw there was that it would impact the parking lot to the north park. Right now you can access from the south, but with the change, there would not be access anymore from traffic driving north, only from traffic going south. So that would be, they would improve the parking lot, but they would not restrict who can enter or how you can enter. I don't know if we can do anything about that. Any other questions here? Should I open it to the public? Does anybody in the public have an interest in talking about this? Yeah, I don't hear any. So we're not voting on this. This is just for recommendations. You understand what the status is. And this is for the council as well. Okay. Katie, you're up next again with the Gatzinger lease.
So some background on this project, there's a portion of the patio at Naxter Park that is currently used by Douglas Development LLC. It's approximately 765 square foot. We're leasing this to them. We've leased it since 2019 and it actually just expired a couple weeks ago. They were paying $2,000 a year at the beginning for rent, and we increased that percentage each year. So most recently this last year, they were paying a little over $2,100. And that's $275 per square foot. This is the portion in question. Here it is on the map, and you can kind of see an overview. It's this patio area that's out in front of Homegrown, the restaurant. So we have developed another lease with them, or a use agreement rather, with an initial term set to expire December 31st, 2029. We picked this term because it coincides with the current lease at Homegrown with Douglas Development. They did agree to increase the rent to $3,000 per year and increase it a further 3% each year of that initial term. And we did want to point out that the agreement does allow alcohol consumption on this patio area within the boundaries of the property being used. And we would recommend that you approve the use agreement with Douglas Development LLC, and a copy of that is in front of you.
Questions for staff?
This is have one, the liability insurance, it's not less than. Obviously it'd be more than that, $500,000. Usually it's like $1 million. So is that standard or is that a change?
That's normally a standard. They can verify
Yeah,
that.
I asked him to ask that.
Huh. You're saying the liability insurance?
Yeah. Not less than that. I guess some in the past have been more than that. So that's why I was just asking.
They have been. It kind of depends on the use that we use. So 500,000 is pegged to the Kansas Tort Claims Act limit that we set. So that's normally why a lot of times we use that for these kind of use agreements. If we feel there is maybe a significant of a risk, we do raise it sometimes.
Okay.
But this number is the minimum, and I'd say a little bit more standard, not to speak to all our contracts, but more standard that we use because it's tied to the amount of liability that we can be liable for as the city under the Kansas Tort Claims Act, which is the act that allows people to sue municipalities for things that happen.
Okay.
So that's why that's the limit of what we can normally be liable for.
Any other comments or questions? I was wondering on something like this, which there's an increase in, is it annually it increases or just the end of the term?
It'd be annual.
Annual, and how is that triggered? Who's responsible for making sure that gets done?
That will be our department accounting team. Well, when they send out the invoice for the annual rent, we will increase it each year when we send out the invoice.
Thank you.
That's within the Parks Department.
Yeah.
Rent now is what? And then it's going to be,
It was currently, for the most recent year, was 2101.25. That was incorporating the increases from the previous.
and then it's going to increase to, again.
Yeah, so the first year will be 3,000 and it'll increase 3% each year.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Somebody from the audience about that?
Question.
Come to the front, say your name, give your name. Oh,
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Susie Cunningham. I live in Midtown. My question is about alcohol consumption and the proximity to residences. Are there any within that 700-foot circle that's part of the, isn't there part of the park ordinance that says you can't consume alcohol within 700 feet of a resident? Just wondered if you had any complaints from the millions of apartments that are around there. That's all.
I'm not aware of any that has come from any complaints on it. And normally when we have those things that are addressed, we have Isaac's normally here who works with a lot of our ordinances and things that we have for alcohol consumption that use that space. And they would normally come through to him, and I'm not aware of any that he's said anything that we had complaints from.
and that doesn't change in this contract to the prior contract.
Yeah, that term is the same for the prior.
Yeah. Any other comments? This is Alejo's district again. So I will make, accept this as recommended. MOU?
Okay.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. Like the ayes have it. So now we move on to Riverside Park.
When does this get sent for approval? You said that the mayor was going to sign it.
I think the next council meeting it would be on is the 5th, November 5th.
Okay.
So that's when it will be before council.
That's when it-
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, we've got a few weeks where they're our meetings. It's very weird, right?
So the next item, I know that we've had some concerns from the community about the space that's there at Riverside Park. And there were some questions about where we were in the process and what were the next steps with it. We haven't officially received a request from the gentleman who normally uses the space to ask for any vote or anything from the park board at this point. That because there were concerns from the community, we want to give an opportunity for them to share or learn more about that process and open up boards of communication so that we can try to answer some of those questions as we move forward. But at this point, there hasn't been any request for the board to actually vote on whether that usage will be expanded for what their request is. But we thought that it would be in the best interest of everyone to have an opportunity to share what those concerns were. So we'll open it up and you want to provide any other?
Oh, yeah, and just to kind of echo what Reggie said, we do not have any proposal for any action or consideration necessarily today. Beyond that, there's no necessarily proposal for kind of events on anything that would still need to be proposed. Not that it wouldn't be considered at the proper time when those things are received, but just to try to, we don't have a lot of information on anything certain yet. And just hopefully that kind of helps frame some of the public comments. We'll try to just keep focused on more of, I guess, the idea of it as potential. And then when it does come back to the board, if there is ever a proposal, there will be another opportunity for consideration by the public as well. So just try to, clarify that with a lot of the information flying around about this item. So thank you.
So the current situation is if somebody wants to use a space such as a gazebo or a center, they make an application, they go, it's done online. It's more or less approved, just if there's nothing competing with it.
Yeah, and not to speak, we have the community events coordinator here, but just to provide a little info. So we do have an application process for use of the parks that uses the same application that we use for community events. This is determined not to necessarily be a community event. It doesn't meet certain of the triggers, but you still have to submit the application for use of the park. That includes things like sound amplification, permission as well. If there are no issues with it, they don't hit any of our reasons to deny, we generally approve those. It's not exclusive for use of the whole park necessarily, but it is permission to use the portion of the park where the application requests. And that's what we've been receiving so far for the events that occur kind of tied to the sometime proposal for the concrete pad in Riverside Park. Trying to think of how to frame it since we don't have one yet, but yes, there is that application process, and those generally are approved unless there is some clear violation of the standards or rules.
These are approved once a year. My understanding that this current usage is booked through the summer for like 3 or 4 months, something like that. And that's possible to do that. And if it's done in January, then there's no notice, there's no public notice or discussion about something like that.
Yes, that's true. It's not a publicly noticed application process, and that's true of community events as well. Sometimes there is public participation depending on if there's alcohol associated with these events. So sometimes there have to be maybe temporary entertainment districts or something like that, which requires city council resolution, but these events haven't been associated with that. We provide flexibility often with our applications. So if someone's going to be using a space weekly, we do allow for one application, depending on depending on how much we know them, how we've worked with them, what the events have been like in the past. Oftentimes for first events, kind of like that, we might require each event to have an application, but then if there's a regular schedule, then we might just allow for a schedule to be approved for use of the park. We are always open to complaints that occur through events, but it's not a publicly noticed, say, application. And that's true just of all of the park use applications that we get, because then we'd be bringing kind of gazebo applications, stuff like that to the park board too. Because it hasn't crossed that community event threshold as well. That's why we are still treating it as a park use rental. And that's kind of, we evaluate that pretty regularly, trying to look at that too. But yeah, always open to looking at it and making sure we're following the rules with that process.
I guess I'm not understanding this. Is this an event, or when I first read this, I thought we were going to modify the park in some way.
So yeah.
So there's current usage at Riverside Park, which we'll hear about that. There's a request, but it hasn't come from us or city council or anywhere to build a dance platform.
I see. Okay.
Which there's no money, there's no plan, there's no blueprint, there's not even a location designated yet. It's an idea, but there may be fundraising around that to get community support to build that, so that there's more of an obligation to put something up.
Let's see.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, there's ongoing events in Riverside Park throughout the summer associated with a group that would like to bolster those events with kind of a concrete pad, mostly for dancing, as I understand it. And again, it's like we haven't seen proposals or anything, but a little bit more on the southeast side of Riverside Park. I'm trying to say that right. I approach it from the other way, but on the southeast side, a little east of like the wildlife exhibit and the playground area. We have not received anything from yet, so it's that's why, sorry, I'm speaking so vaguely about it, but we don't quite have specifics, and it is, since it's Riverside Park, it is park board land, so it's something that would come back to the board whenever.
Well, I would say that this is your district though, right, Tom? This is yours?
Yes.
Yes. So, I mean, I would just say that Riverside's one of those kind of parks, called chill, they're historic in some way. Whatever we do to those spaces should complement the fact that it is a historical park and in a historical neighborhood. So I can understand why we're getting the letter we are, because there are concerns because of the nature of that it is historical. That's where kind of how it lies within a neighborhood. So
it's also one of those parks, just like Chisholm Creek Park, where people come from all over the city and from out of town to enjoy that park, because there is a zoo, there's a playground, there's other things, there's the river right there.
Central Wichita.
So it's historical in that manner too. Any other questions from the board? So I would open it now to members of the public, and I have a list of 5 people. If you still want to talk about this, I'll call you up in the order that I've got on this list. So Mary Lee Littlejohn.
My name is Terry Lee Littlejohn. I've been a resident of Riverside for 45 years. I've raised my kids there. I was raised there and my dad was raised there. So the park is very sentimental to me. I had a personal experience recently witnessing the issue of cars parking on the grassy area in the park. As I went through there, August 25th of this year, it was brought to my attention. The cars were parked all over the grass, under the trees. And I don't think it's in the park's best interest to flood the park in that area with cars. I would like to outline my proposal to this issue and discuss the effect parking on the grassy areas has on the park ecosystem and the 100-year-old trees that are being parked above. I'm an arborist and have been the owner of professional tree care for over 35 years. An arborist is defined as a person that specializes in the cultivation and care of trees and shrubs. In my professional career, I contracted with the Wichita Country Club, providing all their tree care and trimming for 8 years. I also contracted with the city of Eastboro for 3 years, providing the care for their city. I have been a board member of the Kansas Arborists Association, and I was vice president of the South Central Urban Forestry Council. So I have some knowledge in this field. I've worked closely with local landscape architects, Margaret Jones, David Foster, Larry Hootmer, and Dick Weidenbach. I have presented at several seminars on proper tree pruning and care, and have attended numerous seminars over the years with regards to soil compaction and the effect that it has on tree health. Soil compaction causes stress on the entire tree and on their root system, the health of the grass, and any other surrounding plants. Soil compaction is a slow process and can take a number of years before any damage is noticed. Unfortunately, chances are high many of the affected tree roots will never recover, even if the soil compaction gets corrected. Root dieback is close to irreversible, and soil compaction will eventually kill the trees, grass, and other surrounding vegetation. In conclusion, it is my professional opinion it is detrimental for any parking to occur on the grass. Therefore, I encourage the Park Board Commission to oppose to pour a cement slab or build a gazebo in that area, because there is no parking there. That's all.
Teddy McCullough. I would say that to the public, if you're going to repeat something somebody else has said, please consider that and keep it brief.
Here's some photographs that I've printed of what we witnessed in the park. I should have started with you. I apologize. My name is Teddy McCullough, and I also had the opportunity to drive through Riverside Park as I was leaving my home on Litchfield. Terry Lee happens to be my husband. And we were going downtown on Sunday, August 24th, whichever Sunday is. I just want to stress that this part of the park cannot support the number of people that are attending this event. Maybe 7 years ago when it started, there were a handful. There were hundreds when we went through there. Traffic was stopped on West River Boulevard. If an emergency vehicle needed to go through there, it would have been impossible to use it. And I have heard that it's a favorite route of the fire department to go along that street to get to Riverside because it's quick. The cars ran and did stop. There were cars. That is from the week after I went through there. but the week that we drove through, there were cars parked on both sides of West River Boulevard, which is illegally parking, and 20 or 30 cars parked in the grass, just in various locations, which my husband talked about, the soil compaction with cars parked on the grass. My fear is if a platform is built, and it's been proposed to the DAB committee meeting last month because I attended it, and he gave us a proposal. And he showed a map of where Mr. Carr wants to build the platform for the dancers to dance on. If that is built in that area in a situation where it can't handle the number of cars that are there now, what will the platform do as far as that park overload with cars? I saw people drinking, open containers. I don't know if that's allowed in the park. This was the last Sunday or second to last Sunday this was going to occur, so I didn't follow up on it. We were out of town except for with my Maggie Ballard, my county commissioner and our city commissioner. And I'm also fearful of the lack of police support that was there and the fact that they allowed the cars to park willy-nilly in the grass wherever they wanted. I do have some other photographs here where not only our mayor, but also our police chief attended the gathering. Oh, it's in those. They're shaking hands and dancing in the street, even though cars were parked illegally, nothing was done about it, said about it. When I addressed that issue with Mr. Carr, he told me that he thought it was safer to have people park in the grass, and he encouraged them to park on the grass instead of parking on the street where it would impede traffic. I asked about using the parking lot that was there and available, and he did not answer my question. So I also am very worried about the pedestrians that are there. There are hundreds of people walking from the riverbank side of West Stackman Boulevard into the park area, back and forth, not caring if cars are coming. There's small children there. No one's really kind of paying attention to what's happening, which I think is a disaster waiting to happen. And my feeling is building this platform is only going to exacerbate that problem that already exists. Any questions?
Next, I've got Madeline McCullough.
Hello, thank you. I'm Madeline McCullough. I live in Riverside. I have not witnessed these events personally, but I was at the DAB meeting where Ford Card made his proposal, showed his map, told us what he wanted. And my question to him was, why aren't you just using what we already have? We already have Park Villa, which has parking. We already have a bandstand that is an elevated platform. He said that if they don't have live music, they have a DJ. Either one would work great on the stage at the bandstand. We have north of Riverside Park, we have Manissa Park with the park shelter and huge parking lot. And there's one more thing. Oh, and the gazebo right there. And I won't even say, I don't remember what his answer was, but I felt that he didn't really answer me why he didn't want to use our existing venues. They are not completely booked. He said that he could build this 42-foot dance pad for $15,000. I question that. My neighbor just put in a driveway and it cost him $10,000. I mean, just for a residential small driveway. So wonder about that. What it seems to me is that the events are too big for the space, the parking on the grass, the parking illegally in the streets, everything that's been described. Maybe they need an even bigger venue than what they're asking for. And I would ask that, and I want, of course, I want people to use the parks. I'd say one of the most frightening things I read in the news lately was Lily Wu talking about selling parks. No, I don't want that. I want people to use the parks, and I want his group to use the park, but I want them to follow the law. And you can see on YouTube videos and still photos and in social media, they're not following the law. They're drinking in the park, smoking pot in the park, parking illegally. Their noise level is how I first got involved. People, Mr. Carr told us that the music stops at 10. And I have all kinds of neighbors who say, no, the music doesn't stop till 10. It goes 11 or 12 at night, and it's loud enough to rattle windows. So I would just ask that whoever uses the park, they consider our existing venues and they follow the laws that all of us follow. Thank you.
Next, I've got Marty Spence.
Good afternoon. Thank you for hearing from our neighborhood. My name is Marty Spence, and I live just across the river on Back Bay, so I face the event in question. I think it would be safe to say to pull the two apart. I think a lot of our concern, we have two different concerns. One, that our park could be compromised and that more nature harmed than preserved. And we would, I think, enjoy more conversations and directions given to that. The second is that we've got an event that's been going on for some time that's very disruptive to our neighborhood. And I've heard the music amplifies the sound. I, before this, lived on the block that it was happening, and I can now attest that music absolutely amplifies the sound. There's a video I sent last June to Maggie about, even in the evening, I think it was 9 or 9:30, where I was like, everything in my house is shaking. It was all the windows, it was the doors. I went outside and this event was taking place. So I at that time asked, who do I need to talk to make it stop? Because I'm a caretaker for somebody that has dementia, my mother, and it's very agitating to that. I could only imagine the other people in our residence, in our neighborhood. And then I also have 3 children, which have different bedtimes. If you're a parent, you know it's not really like predictable all the time, but it certainly is not always 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. And so this disruption certainly is rippling through our neighborhood. And I think that, peace could be found somewhere. I love that we're bringing suggestions to try to accommodate the event. I appreciate that it sounds like his hope is to establish more community, and I think that's beautiful. I would just hope that we would give more regard to the community that's currently existing, which it sounds like you are, and we're very grateful for that. So going forward, I don't know, I think the dance spot is, like I said, a hypothetical absurdity at this point. If you had $15,000, what beautiful things could we do other than put another concrete slab in? But if we could maybe get some involvement in conversations as this continues, I think that our neighborhood would very much cherish that.
I got one more, Susan Cunningham.
Hi, Susie Cunningham again. I represent the Little Arkansas Community Coalition, and we are basically stewards of the Little Arkansas River Corridor. We have a very active social media platform that has been hearing about this, about violations and about the size of the crowd. I was at the DAB meeting when Mr. Carr said it'd been going on for 5 or 6 years. We didn't hear very many complaints until this year. This event, I don't know how you sell these permits, but the estimated number was probably in the dozens, maybe, not in the hundreds. The DJ who performed on Labor Day estimated the crowd at 400. It's his job to know how many people he draws, so maybe he inflated it a little bit, but there were a lot of people. And the previous speaker, I think what she was trying to tell you is that the sound is amplified by the river. The river is real flat and there's no wind. It just travels everywhere. I don't want anything else built in Riverside. And there is, I'll send you what Mr. Carr showed at the DAB. There is a location. It's basically right in the middle between the rocket and the gazebo. There's no parking there. He's told us that he had a handshake deal with the chief of police that allowed people to park in the no parking zones. It turns Stackman Drive into a one-way street when it's supposed to be a two-way street. Other people have talked to you about parking in the street, but we've heard from people who live in the apartments across the river. Their apartments rattle. You can feel, they say you can feel the bass units of the cars, because one thing Mr. Carr didn't mention was when there is no live music or a DJ, they tune the radios and they post it on social media, so they all do it. They tune their cars to a particular radio station. All those cars have really fantastic stereo systems, and it turns the whole neighborhood, the whole parade, when they come down Stackman and then around to Murdoch and back around to from roundabout to roundabout. It makes that a sound system all the way around. If you read the ordinance, if there were anybody monitoring this, they would see violations. Some people have already mentioned a lot of them, but it makes you wonder when the time frame doesn't really line up with, I'd like to know, is he buying 4-hour blocks? Because that's how they're sold. It starts at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, some Sundays 3, some Sundays 4. That means it's going to be over by 8 o'clock, but it's not. He did say that it's always over by 10. The ordinance says in unlit areas has to be shut down at 9. So I think there's a lot of work to be done as far as figuring out how far this activity or this event has outgrown the park. In 2002, I think we moved several activities that were related to Riverfront out because it outgrew the park. We just have a lot of noise issues. And I noticed, because I drive through there a lot, little kids, bumper to bumper cars playing along the street, just above the curb. What if a ball goes out? I mean, it just seems so dangerous to have nonstop cars parked bumper to bumper, cars parked in the grass, and little kids walking back and forth across that street. Also, I do think that one of the reasons this event has garnered so much complaint this year, because everybody welcomed it before. Everybody wants the park used. Everybody wants to hear music in the parks. What changed was the addition to car enthusiasts who stream. It's just a constant flow of fabulous looking cars. I know it's cool, but it overwhelmed this activity. So I don't know. I think that everyone needs to follow these rules. I don't know if he carries liability insurance like you're supposed to. I guess that's all. I just would like for there to be some enforcement I'd like for the police chief to use the proper channels before he gives permission. I think that's at least supposed to be in writing. Anyway, I guess that's all. Thanks.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak that hasn't signed up already? Take a lot of time, so let's keep it brief.
I'm Alice Pride, president of Riverside Citizens Association. And my comments are basically that a city park in the midst of quite a bit of residential neighborhoods may not be the best place for a car rally and loud music after sunset on a Sunday evening. Sedgwick County Park might be a better place.
If there's no further comments or questions from the public, I'll bring it back to the board. And like we said earlier, there's nothing we're voting on. We're here today to listen to the public and to just understand the situation a little better. Then if car brings us something, brings the board, park department something, probably review it again. So thank you for everybody. One more question?
I need to come up there.
Yes, yes.
I'm Debbie McCullough. Thank you again. I just want to know if there's a way for us to be notified when this discussion happens, either by email or what have you, where we would look so we could stay apprised of when the next meeting is.
Now I'll speak to that. Bill.
Yeah, sure.
So anytime there's a request that comes open, we have it on the agenda as an agenda item that will be posted online for out and actually share what their concerns are. At this point, we haven't got an official request for anything, but we do put those minutes out from the end of the meetings and post the agenda prior to each of the meetings so that you guys can come out and share your.
Okay, so if it's on a Monday, we could look for the agenda by Friday, or will there be additions on Monday? So we would have to look at Mondays as well.
Typically, it says
Very, very rare that we would add any changes on Monday. I publish the agendas on Wednesday before the Monday meeting. We meet on the second Monday of every month.
And if you don't pick it up that way, you can contact me or the council member. Okay, moving along. We have no prior business to discuss. We have a finance report from Brandon.
While they're getting ready, I guess I would throw out, I do think there is a time when it can be successful for a given area. Our family, I am very aware of the emergency response in that area. Security, safety is, or if you've never been to an issue in the park, if there's an issue on North Riverside, Station 1's the closest, and that's the route.
Okay.
Get there.
Riverside is very packed area, the housing there.
We'll try to remember to touch base with fire before that too. So once we get the full proposal, we'll try to collect sort of the other department, their views on that, so we can maybe. I keep almost saying give something more concrete, and I'm really trying not to. But basically give something a little firmer about exactly that kind of issue, because that station over on Main uses that road a lot. Yeah.
We go to Brandon. I talked with Councilmember Ballard about this earlier, and probably before next season, before the next round of approvals, that we'll discuss some of these issues that may not come here or maybe come, but between the police, fire, council members.
And we'll at least try to get the relevant information for when there is something for this board to consider. So you have that too. Yeah, exactly, Tom. Thank you.
Yeah, Brandon.
All right, guys, so this is the financial update for the department and for golf through September of 2024. All of this will also include the revised budget amount that were adopted by council back in August. Everything's looking pretty strong as far as revenues go. The revised budget did increase, so we did increase our basically our revenue goals for especially the recreation side. Just noting that from last year, they had basically met or exceeded the current budget goals for the year. And so during that process, we bumped them up a little bit, challenging them more to increase their budgets, their revenue generation. And everything's looking pretty good, pretty strong. Especially considering that if you look at recreation, we'd be looking at about 75% fall months are equal. They're not. So 80% I think is we may not hit 100% of the budget, but I think we're going to get pretty close on the revenue projections. As far as the expenditure side, things are looking very strong. Recreation is over that 75%, but again, most of their activity happens in the summer and in the spring. Especially if you're looking like at aquatics, they're not really doing anything as much. And we still have some liability insurance and things like that that'll hit in the third quarter. I've looked over my projections. I've done some forecasting for the next 3 months through the September actuals, and we if my forecasts are doing what I think they're going to do, we should be under budget. For recreation, we will definitely be under budget for the department.
Why is park maintenance so much under budget?
A lot of things with the park maintenance, number one is that we have open positions that we try to fill. And sometimes those people just don't go out to apply for those positions. The other big portion of that is our public mowing. Those contracts, as the weather got hot and as the drought continued, growing season has slowed down, so we haven't had to pay as much of them. And although we have not hit those fuel surcharges that we have packed into the budget, so if fuel prices go up, which they haven't in the last 2 years, but if they hit, then we have the budget to pay more of those gas surcharges, but we haven't had to do that. So that's also a big area of why we're so under budget on the maintenance side. As far as recreation cost recovery, things are looking pretty steady. I'd like to see a little bit more cost recovery. Looking at the rec centers, I think part of this is also Brewer. As we've had to close Brewer Recreation Center for remodeling, they're just not being able to generate really any revenue. Summer camps are looking good. I think we still have some adjustments to make for grant. We're still needing to make some adjustments in the grant revenue from the CSBG. Specialty parks is looking pretty good. The big one there is Riverside Fitness Center, which is up to 93%, which has been where they're at about the last couple of years. Around the 80-90% as we're moving with new management. Athletics is looking about 87%, which is more than what they were at last year. Our goal is for 100%. And we may see this number increase as we see more of the as we see like football season come to an end and then part of the accounting rules, some of that revenue will start hitting the books after football season's over. And then pools finished a little bit lower than what we, I think, than what we really needed, or what we anticipated, down at 32% cost recovery, but they had a busy season. As far as golf goes, everything's looking pretty strong. Revenues are coming in where we anticipate. Expenditures are also looking really nice. And then we've had an unencumbered cash balance ending in August, about 1.6 million. And then anything that's over that 1 million mark at the end of the year, we'll pull over and transfer that over into the projects account. And so we'll use that money to do extra projects and to fund path repairs and things like that. And they are also doing well with cost recovery. All right, any questions?
Yeah. Huh?
Thank you, guys.
Or do you have communication updates?
No, big communication update. I did want to introduce a new member on our team. So Alice Gallup is going to be the person that's going to be replacing Penny, who is retiring on the 25th of this month. So she has some big shoes to fill. But we're confident she's going to be a good addition to the team. She did come over from Public Works, where she was involved in a lot of their customer service and meeting with our community with addressing some of the issues there. So I think she'll work well with what we're doing here with our team. So other than that, just making sure we're keeping things moving forward in the transition and trying to continue to lead the team until we move further in what direction we're going to go in. And it's been a great team effort with making sure things keep moving forward.
There were two things which we had under consideration. I guess the master plan is with the city, with the manager's office now. What is the status?
So we're still gathering information on that and putting together a rough process for us to actually look at for going out for RFP. And we're gathering feedback from in the department and also looking at some of the things that are happening in other communities, so that when we put something out, that it's going to be reflective of where we're going with potentially the next 10 to 15 years. So we are still moving forward. We're gathering information on that. We haven't decided when it will actually be released at this point, putting together. And Katie's kind of helping lead the effort on that with putting a lot of that together. And once we get to the point where we think we have an RFP that we're looking at, then we'll determine when we'll move forward potentially with that.
Does that intersect with the new director search?
So we haven't gotten an exact time frame of when that process is going to actually start. And we're just gathering information kind of on what standards are, what other communities have done, and what is kind of the process for potential consultants. And we haven't got a time frame on when that's going to actually go out. So once we get to the point of where we're going to make a decision with new direction of leadership, I'm sure that'll be part of the process as well.
So I would like to say thank you, Penny, for your service, for the assistance that you give to all of us. And I know we'll miss you, but we welcome.
I think I'm leaving everybody in good hands with Alex. He's gonna be a rock star.
Should hear from that.
Ranger. We'll miss you.
I was going to comment every meeting.
I'll move on to social media update.
Will be a pretty brief update as well. Here is an update on our current numbers. The one thing to note on this is that Kansas Wildlife Exhibit is going crazy with their count. They went from 8,400 to 12,000 followers in the last couple of months. So I don't know what they're doing, but they're doing something right. But everyone else is pretty on par with normal, just little increases here and there. So the overall, we're kind of we're approaching our slow time again with the summer being over. We'll start ramping up some of the holiday event promotions here soon. But right now we're just kind of at our normal like downtime. So the Wichita Park and Recreation Facebook page was down a little bit in terms of its reach, but it did reach 32,000 total. So the September top post was the Color Run, which was a city crew event held at Edgemore. And everything I've heard about it is that was a really good event. You can see these kids are having a lot of fun at the Color Run. That was a repeat event that we did the previous year as well, but it was very successful. And the kids really enjoyed that. Watson Park has Wicked Island going on right now through the end of the month. So that's pretty much what's been posted on the Watson Park page. NASCAR Park, the top post was about the Battle of Wichita Once Upon a Time event that reached almost 1,000 people with that post, and the overall page reach was 37,000. We just had Open Streets last weekend, so of course that Facebook page saw a lot of traffic over the last month. The overall page reach was about 21,000, which is up 400% from the previous month. So just goes to show that as those events approach, people will keep getting excited about it. One post in particular asking for vendors reached 14,000 people. It was shared 15 times and clicked through 17 times. And then finally, the Golf Wichita page was about on par with its the same amount of people seeing that page from one month to the next. The top post was a contest where people had to guess the tee that this picture was. So people were commenting like crazy on that. It reached 2,400 people, 47 reactions, 68 comments. So that was a fun little giveaway there that they did on that page.
Where is it?
Anybody win?
What was that? What was the answer, Jesse?
Text number 13.
There you go.
I won, so I hope I'm telling you the right answer.
I was guessing Sims.
No.
Right, that's all I've got. So any questions about social media?
Recreation update.
Just briefly, in the transition, it's been busy with getting everything moving forward, but Recreation has continued to do a lot of good programming in the community. We wrapped up the Splash Pads closing up last month. We're excited that we are just finishing interviews that we're bringing on a maintenance mechanic under aquatics, and that'll allow us to be able to address some of the maintenance issues that we have in the off season to be able to have the pools up and ready to go for the season happening. We also just recently brought on another person that's at Watson Park to help with the programming that we're doing there. So we're seeing a whole lot more activity, and being able to have a second person there that can help with the maintenance and programming updates there is a big plus for us. The summer camps finished up really well. We also had a lot of activity at the tennis center where we hosted tournaments there, and we're still continuing to work in conjunction with Newman and Friends and hosting a lot of their meets there, as well as their games there, as well as the United States Tennis Association. That we do some programming there for some of their regional tournaments and state tournaments in conjunction with USD 259. As you guys are aware, we started a partnership this year with USD 259 for the football program. That's going extremely well. Getting a lot of participation from the community, a lot of support so far with that transition. And we're already getting some inquiries about some other groups that may be interested in coming on board with us as we go into next season. So we're excited about it.
Questions for staff? Jesse, update.
I'll go through this pretty quick, nothing too surprising. We're looking at September. Year to date, we're right at 10,000 rounds behind last year. Of course, I say this every time. Tech's being closed for a month really had the impact. So without that, we would be pretty much on par with last year. So Happy with the participation. September rounds alone, we were almost dead on with last year. Not a lot of rain in September either year, so pretty much apples to apples, and we're almost dead on. Cart rentals, I thought we were gonna catch last year, even though we were closed and lost all that revenue from cart rental. And we're slowly inching closer. It's gonna be really close. I don't know if we'll quite make it, but still, really comparable to last year. Food and beverage numbers continue to increase as we are trying a lot of new stuff right now. We're in the process. We just hired, I think last meeting, he may have even said something, Trevor, for kind of F&B and the marketing position. We've got a lot of, the first thing he did on the F&B side was put in a lot more controls, making sure we're monitoring the inventory, doing a lot better with food waste and food costs. That's got that going in the right direction. And then we're trying a lot of new stuff at each course. Each course kind of doing their own things to see what hits, getting feedback from a lot of people. So it's really coming along. Driving range comparison, we're up $22,000 from last year. The main, I mean, Auburn Hill was up 10,000, which is crazy. And then Mac, again, I think I said last time, even with First Tee having so much more programming this year, that range is close to the public more while they do their programming. But even so, we're up nearly $10,000 with that driving range. So good success with the range this year. Merchandise sales were almost dead on last year, within $1,000. So pretty happy with that as well. Total revenue for September, we beat out last year by, say it was like $20,000, but we're 65,000 above last year. And again, all things considered, I'm extremely happy with that number. And I just looked, if nothing crazy happens in the next 5 days, we're going to hit the total for last October by the 19th of this month. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. We're having a very good month. We've had a lot of events, perfect weather, obviously, over the last 3 weeks. So been able to take advantage of that. As far as our events go, we are pretty well to the end of the tournament season. I think we have a couple of small ones, but had a really good fall. Everyone wants to do them in September and October, so we've been very busy with that. Everything went pretty well. And before I say anything else, any questions on any of the numbers here? Okay, and then a couple little quick things I wanted to say. The irrigation RFP is out right now. It closes on the 25th. That's for SIM. That's a huge thing for us. So hopefully we get some good proposals, and hopefully the timeline works out. We can get something done sooner rather than later. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, we hosted a United Way event Saturday. We threw it together ourselves just to raise money for United Way, and we haven't had time today to sit down and get the financials completely squared away, but we raised somewhere around $2,500 at that event. That will go strictly to United Way. So had a lot of fun and felt like that was a good event and a way to give back. So pretty happy with that. And any questions, anything?
How's the conditions of the course?
I'll go one by one. Tex right now is immaculate. It was the worst with winter kill. We were able to sprig. It came back. I mean, I get comments 50 times a day about how good that course is. Mac, it was not good. We tried several things this year that just did not take. We just did probably 2 to 3 weeks ago. We did overseeded rock in the fairways and all the bad spots. That's starting to come in. If you stand back right now, there's not many dead spots. It looks solid green. It looks much better. As you get on top of it, it's brand new, so it's real thin. That'll continue to get better. We're going to spot seed over the next couple of weeks to fill in the places that didn't take the way we wanted. Our plan there is to do a lot of sodding next year with the things that didn't work with the seed and the sprigs that we tried. Next year, we're going to do a lot of sod work to the fairways once that rye starts to die out and the weather. What's that?
At Mac?
At Mac, Sam, and Auburn. The Texas was really the only one with that, being able to use the machine that we had access to. That's the only one that really we were happy with. It's definitely a challenging year. So at Auburn, we have overseeded some. We're going to do some more overseeding to get through the winter and spring, good conditions. And then same thing, we'll determine how much sod we want to do in the spring. And then Sim has slowly been going in the right direction all year. It was so bad with the winter kill. It takes time to fill all that in. So we'll do the same there. Hopefully we'll have irrigation that will make a tremendous difference there next year, because the irrigation it just doesn't work. I mean, it's completely broken. So the other thing we're looking at, especially at MAC and at Auburn, are bunker projects this winter. At MAC, we're going to eliminate a few bunkers and really work on the ones that need it. Auburn the same way, get more sand, fix just been so short staffed. Bunkers take a lot of time. They're the most time consuming part of the golf course. So we're really going to focus on those and do some big projects over the winter.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all.
So, maintenance, Gary.
Last time at a park board meeting, thank you, Pete. Appreciate it. We are gonna miss you. Maintenance section, we are busy. Forestry, we are doing a lot of pruning, a lot of inspections, a lot of tree removals, and all that gets interrupted by our emergency work that we've done quite a bit of. That has actually slowed down quite a bit, but yet we still have 215 incidents in September. So that's a lot for a month, but that's a decrease from the months before. We had a project that supported our streets in public works. They are taking some portions of downtown from one-way to two-way, and in order to get the machinery in needed to do those projects, they needed some trees pruned. So instead of contracting that out and putting our downtown trees in the hands of some contractors, we did that internally. 308 trees were pruned to support that project. Our October scheduled activity in forestry remains pretty consistent. We always take emergencies as top priority. There is still a active sump contract out, and we are trying to facilitate the promotion of that. It was there was issues with the company. The owner of that company passed away, and so there's been a gap of service. So we're trying to reestablish good connections with what's going to happen with that company moving forward, but we're delaying any kind of cancellation of the contract to communicate with them. So that still is going on. That should have ended in the first part of October, but we're still communicating with them as the transition happens with the leadership of that company. So construction special projects, these guys are busy. One of the picture that you see there is in Clap Park. We covered the new bridge and actually a few bridges with some turf. The name of the turf it's fake, astroturf, whatever you call it. With that, and then also did that where the runners would cross sidewalks. So the runners apparently cross country, they use a special cleat, and if you run on concrete with that, not only does it damage the cleat, but it also puts the runner at risk of slipping and things like that. So we partner with WSU to cover these areas where the runners are going to be going with this astroturf. We're actually looking at a covering, a concrete covering or another type of surfacing that will be useful for all the walkers, joggers, whatever that might use the path on any given day, as well as being useful for the cross country when they have their events. USD 259, WSU, other groups, other cross country events are being held there. It's really becoming a regional attraction to have a cross country meet there. So I'm really excited to work with that user group. Again, the construction crews really busy. You can see a long list of activities that they've been a part of. There have been several different fences and fence structures damaged over the past month that they've been involved in getting repaired. There was a bench set on fire. They got that removed, so it was not an attractive nuisance. They repaired the boardwalk at Trinity Creek Park. And then, let's see, there was another one I wanted to mention, the kiosks and the wall boards at the KWS signs and at the Lincoln Street Bridge, South Kansas Greenway, they assembled and installed those. There's a number of items on this list that I won't go through each and every one of them, but a lot of sign work gets done, as well as playground repair. And I want to mention on the playground repair, these are not parts that you can just go to Lowe's and pick up. These have to be special ordered. There's a very limited number of suppliers that are available, and throughout since the pandemic, their supply chain issues have just been a massive problem. So we may have vandalism to a playground, and it gets closed for an extended period of time because there's such a delay in getting the parts. It's not because we aren't ordering the parts, it's because we aren't receiving those parts that have been ordered. But when we get them in, we are really, really keen to get those things installed, get those playgrounds back up and running and available for the public.
Gary, what's the MS Mitchell park sign that you put in?
It's right here.
I got one down.
This one right here is the College Hill.
Okay. In the second bullet. Second bullet. MS Mitchell, floodway park sign.
Yeah, we installed a new one.
Up there on 21st Street?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
So in the support activity category, one of the things that this group does is set the ADA showmobile. And I was talking with Brett recently, and he was talking about the number of sets that we do. And there's somewhere around 30 sets that were scheduled this year. Break that down, that's more than 2 per month. That requires, a crew to go in, and it's a specialized deal. Driving that big of a trailer and parking it in some of the places that we get asked to park this thing is not easy. So that takes up quite a bit of time, and it really is a challenge to get these, to get the showmobile in where the user groups are really desiring it. So these guys do a great job with that. There was an issue with some storm drain, broken storm drain that had been there for a long time, and they actually undermined the part of the driveway going into the tennis center. So if you've been in there recently, you've seen these barricades. We've been working with Public Works. They have a contractor online to repair that, and so that's going to be fixed. But that was caught by our crew, and they got into action, got that barricaded off, and then got everything assessed. So appreciate them doing that. Again, more showmobile sets. So a lot of activities scheduled for October, but again, next month you're going to see the same long list of activities that this crew does to support keeping our parks in shape and keeping the structures that people use safe. So park maintenance, their crews, they are doing our regular routine maintenance. We're going to be transitioning soon to winter maintenance and winter activities and winter lists. It didn't happen in September, but we did do the traffic control maintenance, or not maintenance, but monitoring with open streets. And then when the event was over, our staff took down the barricades so the traffic could keep going. Multiple times a year, sometimes multiple times a month, our staff gets asked to come up with a road closure plan for special events. And then that road closure plan gets reviewed by the Public Works street
engineering. And then everything gets approved, and there are very specific and legally obligatory ways that we can close the street. So all that has to be very specific, and so we do that quite a bit. It's just one of the many things that we do. Our athletics crews, they're getting ready for league play and regular play on the athletic fields that we have, and our noxious weed crew, they're spraying when the weather conditions are good for that. We've had a lot of really good weather for spraying lately. And our irrigation crews, they continue to do repairs on our systems, but one of the things we're getting ready to do is winterize our systems. So I wanted to be sure and mention that it's likely that we're going to start to get complaints that we're watering, especially in the face of the water shortage and against regulation, which we're trying to do everything we can to be in regulation and not water outside of the restrictions and things like that. So there's a chance that you might get a phone call of, why is Park watering, outside of their day, or we're winterizing the systems. And if we do not winterize the systems, then we are opening ourselves up for some significant damage. It's just part of the maintenance of the system. If you have ever owned an irrigation system, you got to do it. Today was the last issue day for grounds maintenance contracted work order. Did not say that right. We issued work orders for the last time this year for grounds maintenance. So the contractors are receiving their work orders today. They'll have the prescribed number of days to get those done, and but this is the last round, so that'll be coming to an end. Many of you know that we had issued kind of a pause in our maintenance cycles this summer due to the drought, and that set off a series of events that led to many of the sites being unmaintained apparently, and that kind of thing. It didn't lead to a lot of positive feedback. All of those sites have received maintenance, and now they're going to get their one last cycle. So everything should look good for the winter. So we're glad about that. The Mantis is continuing to work along the riverbanks and working on knocking back the invasive brush, invasive trees, invasive vegetation that inhibits a lot of things that are going on the shoreline. But then we also worked in Oak Park. The carriage path had become almost completely enclosed, almost shoulder to shoulder vegetation, just really an unsafe situation. We took that vegetation back to the original carriage path to open that back up, really made a difference. And also when we had the goats in Oak Park this last few weeks, and they're gone now, but the amount of the open field with that vegetation gone and those leaves gone was really significant. But when you're walking through that carriage path, there was this sense you could just see what was coming and what was behind you, so there wasn't that claustrophobic and unsafe feeling. So that was a good thing. Of course, vandalism and illegal dumping, graffiti, that kind of thing. That WPD hot team, they've been at half staff almost all year. So that really impacts the number of cleanups that we can get to do, because they're the ones that post the camps for the itinerary camps. That is all I have. Stand for any questions.
I have a question outside your presentation, but it's a general question. So it's very likely the drought's going to continue to next year.
Sure.
And I'm concerned that we're going to basically, for a temporary emergency, stave off basically prevention for a longer term emergency. What I mean by that is that we're saying don't plant trees, but we're watering lawns. And a tree takes less water than a lawn does. So I'm just wondering if we're giving good information about don't plant trees. If this continues next year, where we're at now, and we say keep watering lawns, but we don't plant trees. We're losing more trees than we're putting in. And if you look at the climate models, drought is going to be our potential for a long time. And we really need the trees more than ever because they hold moisture and water. So just a general question, I guess, a statement, I guess. We're giving good information now.
You're really putting me on the spot.
I hate to do that, just a
How
question.
do I answer that politically correctly?
Okay.
There's a lot of things that, well, I don't want to go down that road. So we want to be as compliant as possible with the regulations that are set forth. I'll just say that.
Right.
Now, as far as opinions on what information is good, what information is bad, I mean, that's up for debate. And, you know, I'm just like anybody else, I can have opinions. But, you know, I love trees, so I'm biased. Right.
I want to be science fact based. So I'm an environmental engineer by profession. I just know that as being an environmental engineer, right? So I just come to this board and say, trouble to the spot. Board, you know, maybe we need to also say back to say, is watering lawns the best thing? Maybe we should be devoting that water to trees instead of lawns, right? Since the tree thing is coming from this board, that's all I'm saying, right?
I will say that the water that we are putting on the trees that we do water right now, I mean, we are still doing that, is 100% reclaimed water. We are not using any potable water, period. We are only using reclaimed, non-potable water to water trees right now. So as long as we can continue to do that, I've got my fingers crossed that the investment that we've made in these trees will be, you know, good money spent. And we'll be able to keep those as healthy as possible. I agree with you that, you know, the drought does appear to be long lasting. But for these trees that we are putting water on manually, we're using non-potable reclaimed water.
I think walks and parks, I just got a dumb question. I don't ever remember Pawnee Prairie as a kid being so shrubby, so woody. It's like the pasture out there is no longer a pasture, having walked south lakes. We're starting to get into the same scenario that what I would assume was meant to be grasslands is turning woody, shrubbery.
Cedar trees.
No, not necessarily cedar, just the noxious plants coming up and trees coming up in open hayfield, or what was hayfields. Is there a plan? I know burning Pawnee is not really an option in the last 20 years with the houses and the airport there.
Well, we have done burning in Pawnee Prairie within the last 20 years. Right now, it's not.
It's a bad time of year. We get that.
Well, it's not just a bad time of year. We have applied for permits and, you know, it just hasn't happened. And then with the prescribed burns, the window, the parameters that surround that are so narrow. It's really tough to do. Is there a plan? There's a lot of plans that we have of what we could or would do given the resources to do it.
I just didn't know if there's a plan to bring a forestry mulcher in and try to, or a smart author.
And we have done that in a lot of different places. And well, Pawnee Prairie is one of them. On the west side, we opened up a whole new meadow that was primarily eastern red cedar. And that takes time and resources. So when we have those available, yes, it's our hope and ambition to keep the prairie part of Pawnee Prairie. You know, Swanson's the same, Chisholm, same. There's a lot of areas that have been neglected over the years in terms of massive land management projects, and it is almost 100% resource-based decision-making.
Gary, at Sim Park, the road closure, are there barriers going to be put up? They have not yet been done. Is that a plan?
That is my understanding, that there would be permanent movable barriers,
But they're not there yet.
but they're not there yet.
I came up at the DAB meeting a month ago, and I was going to again tonight for District 6. So, okay. Any other questions? Luke?
Do I need to go up?
Yeah. State your name and address. It's related to the public.
Yeah, it's a question.
Claire Willenberg, North Riverside. Two things. We have a Facebook with like 7,600 followers. The carriage path lit up, both for and against. Will you be cleaning that area and keeping it free? Do you have maintenance plans for it? Right now, you went through, you cleared it, but it's not all cleaned, picked up.
Right, as from the mic, I don't think right now there is a plan to go back. Now, and say go back, there's not a plan to go collect any of the debris. And just to bring you up to speed, the machine that was used to clear that vegetation basically mulched everything. And say mulch, it didn't make it into a garden style mulch, it just shredded the timbers. So
It's difficult to walk.
well, if it's difficult to walk, I need to address that, because we didn't want to make anything difficult to walk the path. And so I don't know if people have been putting stuff out into the path, I'm not really sure, but we'll definitely go take a look at it.
Okay, second, what can we as citizens do to help you with park maintenance? And of course, I work mostly in the Riverside park system, and it is more historic. But the deferred maintenance there is massive and long-term. People can't walk their dogs through the stickers, through the grass. Almost every piece of wood and metal, every structure has maintenance issues. Lots of graffiti, lots of trash. What can we do?
Well, a lot of what you could do is putting positive and constructive pressure on the electeds that needs these resources to make these spaces where the citizens that need and want to use them, where it is a comfortable place to be. As far as individual situations like graffiti or damage to structures and things like that, there's a reporting process. I mean, the Seek Fix is a great way to do that. If you're not familiar with that process, I can talk to you about that. But those things that can be reported, we can take care of on an individual basis, and especially things like graffiti. Those we only know of when they get reported. So there are things that we can do about stickers depending on the situation or where it is. If it is a place where we can get our equipment in to spray and it's not going to cause any ecological problems, where it's actually legal to spray within that boundary. Some things that you have a certain boundary within a waterway, so Riverside's challenging. We have to look at that and stay within the compliance of the product labels. So I don't know that that's a reason why we haven't in Riverside, but I can certainly look into it.
By the gazebo, there used to be a full pond. And water lily structures used to be there. Now it just looks like a stagnant sinkhole. It looks like there used to be a water well there. Could we investigate that, get that back?
I believe there is a water well there, and I believe that that has not been turned on due to the restrictions.
It's been years.
Years. Now,
Of course.
there, I believe also that there's some maintenance issues with leakage, but let me get with my park maintenance staff to get some history on that, and I can get back with you on that.
And if citizens could participate, I think we could find them, have like cleanup days or GoFundMe's for your
Yeah.
water well.
We can regularly, I work with groups that do park cleanups or things like that. So that is ongoing. We can do that again.
Honeysuckle and that.
Oh, yeah.
Avoid the anonymous in Oak Park all the time. Yeah,
Very good.
thank you.
Anything else?
Any other questions? Otherwise, thank you, Gary. Okay, next item, Doug, anything on the
No, there's a project coming up that's not well enough defined. I just give you a heads up and needs to be reviewed by some officials first before they can, but it's a pretty good project that
It's not a concrete slab in Riverside, is it?
huh? It's what?
It's not a concrete slab where it's.
No, it's not a concrete slab. But as far as money, it's they've got 119,000 as net income so far. And as far as projects go, they've got over $790,000 project. And from what I can tell is if we've got anything that's, kind of big in nature, they'd like to spend some money to try to kick off and help funding private and public. So instead of having it all public funding, they'd like to kind of mix in the private funding also. So that they've got a good plan going forward. They're also waiting on the master plan. They'd like to be involved in the master plan.
Thank you. Alejo's not here to give a president's update, and I have nothing prepared. So get over that. Do you have anything else to add?
Just that, wanted to thank Penny for her decade of support. Truly missed her, so we appreciate all your hard work you've done since you've been here. And probably only other thing that I wanted to do, knowing the transition, one of the things I've been trying to do with the park team is making sure that we're communicating well where we are and where we're moving forward with the next steps. So we're implementing, starting next month, where we're going to have an all hands on deck meeting that we bring everyone together, give them updates of where things are. Because one of the biggest things that can kill organization is transition is not communicating well. So we want to make sure that we're giving opportunity that we can share information as I get it to share with them, and also pulling in other things that are coming up in other departments that may impact us, so they can hear it directly from there instead of hearing it from someone else, and they can have an opportunity to ask questions as well. So that's a big thing for us. Great team is trying to keep things moving forward in the transition and make sure that we're in the right direction until we find out what the next steps are.
That's all we got. Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Go home.
Last time, Penny.
Just
That's best.
We're getting Alex set up, so
Yeah.
we'll be able to do that.
Yep. Like you're ignoring that part.
Well, one of the things that we can vote on.
Writing my
Just want, it's a request on anything, so.
I don't know how he works politically. I don't know what his system is. He's been to community meetings, neighborhood meetings, the day.
You have to come directly to us, to anything. So as soon as we hear something, we'll make sure you guys are aware of it. Put it on the agenda and post it for the.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think we should have one.
Yeah.
Thank you for stack.
So I don't.
Like your first part or me?
Yes.
You know, in any type of way, it was. I was in here at between 2 and less, but I'll send it to you.
Yeah, no, I know.
Maybe because everybody hyped it up so much, maybe because,
Yeah, I think.
it wasn't exactly, yeah,
Some sort of.
it was pretty much, 3 units. Guys just 5, but my hand isn't cramping as much as I thought it would.
I'm just like, yeah, I'm concerned about where it came from, because like, when I compared literally, August to September, it went up 4,000. It wasn't like a slow roll, like, it just.
They had a good number of clinics.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
yeah, no, I'm just not sure, like, if it got shared externally.